Alrighty, it is time for Nymue the Life Weaver. This is actually one of my favorite fights in the entire tier so far. I really do like Smolderon as well, which will be the next video after this. However, Nymue feels very, very good. It's a very decent mid-level boss. It does a lot of damage. However, your movement and your ability to maintain uptime while dodging laser beams, doing soaks, is just honestly a lot of fun. I really enjoy this fight. I think it's quite a banger. I feel like there's a good amount of skill expression maintaining 100% uptime on these fights and these boss encounter. So I really, really enjoy it. We'll be running our single target setup. There are ads within the fight, but you will only be fighting one ad at a time ever, and the ads will only spawn in the intermission phase. Alrighty. Now, there's a couple things we need to talk about before getting into it. The first thing is this fight is going to be a 6 to 7 minute fight based on your group's DPS most of the time, maybe a little shorter if everybody's blasting. But because of that, it means we can get 2 potion uses in. So we're going to use our potion off the rip with our standard opener, and then we are going to, excuse me, and then we are going to be essentially just doing the fight as normal. You're going to see me lag a bit here at the start. I don't know what it is. It's this ground effect. Something about this ground effect, because the moment you see this big ground effect go away, totally fine. But there's something about that ground effect that is just destroying my stream. I don't know what it is. I still have yet to figure it out. But we have a few mechanics here. What we're namely doing in melee is we're soaking, we're not getting hit by the explosion if we can help it, and the main mechanic for us is going to be, you see here coming in 4 seconds, the red soak. If this red soak is not fully soaked by melee, it always comes out while these beams are coming in. It will wipe the entire raid. This is one of the few one-shot mechanics on this fight. But if you are able to, I would also recommend fully topping down your camera when these red beams comes out, because you're simply just going to give yourself a better visual and it's going to make it easier to dodge, but you can keep your uptime 100% while being in the beams, while being in the soak. It is designed for you to be able to do this. Now, there are a couple danger points here. These points are big danger and something you should look out for when you're proccing this fight early, and something you should pay attention to. The red soak is always going to be either here or here on the other side of the boss. And during the red soaks, it is possible to have these green soaks here, or vice versa, here or here on the other sides. These circles overlap here, and they overlap. This little section here is a full overlap. But the red soaks take a lot longer to soak to actually completely get them soaked before they kill the entire raid. Why is this important? Because if you soak and misposition and soak the green soak fully while you're trying to get the red soak, what's going to happen, like this, is now you're going to have to deal with the red soak while the green soak is going. I pop Spell Reflect here to stay alive. This thing does like 300 to 400k damage. And you see everybody else move out of it. Depending on how many people you have alive, how many melee you have, what's going on, it is possible that your melee will just straight up die in this kind of a situation, where I took, even through Spell Reflect, half of my health to stay in and soak that red soak while that explosion was going off. It is very easy to die in this fight, and a lot of it has to deal with these overlapping soaks. Because if you do it wrong, there are a couple sets where there are 2 green soaks and a red soak, and you're moving back and forth to dodge the beams while soaking the red soak and maintaining your uptime, right? But it is possible to be in those soaks at the same time, and I have seen multiple situations where all 3 soaks are essentially going off at the same time. If your team is not quick, someone's dead. Like, straight up, someone is just dead. But this brings us to our first intermission of the fight, right? The intermission, what our job is is there's 2 ads, right? We're gonna go, you know what? We're gonna hit up fucking paint, right? Here's the Nymue room, boss here. Here's the little boss V. Boss is angry. Boss hates you, right? And then there's an ad here, and a third ad back here. Very important to note, this third ad has a circle around it. If you go into the circle once, ever, you will have a debuff on you that makes you take 1,000 or 100, it's like 100 or 1,000% extra damage. I don't know the exact number. But instead of taking, while you're in the circle, 20k damage per tick, you're going to take 200,000 damage per tick if you accidentally dip into this circle. If you mess, it's really hard for melee to mess up. We've had some of our ranged accidentally dip into this circle here before it is their time to fight the ad. But if you dip into this circle on accident, you're just dead when it is your turn to go fight the ad. Now, what is the ad? We'll get to that as we get closer to it, but which ad should you fight? Right? There are 3 ads up, so where do you go to? You can see here, up in the top left, this is where everybody is assigned, but for Warrior, because our timers are 3 minutes for our cooldown set, we should go to the second ad set you see here. You can either go left or right, depending on what's set up, but we need to go to the second ad, because our cooldowns will be up for that ad. It is the most efficient time for us to go. Other than that, it is pretty simple. You come out here, you kill these ads. It's kind of like Heroic. The only thing different about this fight than Heroic is these soaks. So like you see these soaks here. In normal and Heroic, these soaks just go away over time on their own. On Mythic, if you're fighting these ads and you do not soak these, they stay there forever. And you will be dealing with the damage they do the entire time. So while these ads are alive, it is your job to soak these while killing the ad. And then when everybody comes back in after, it is the tank's job normally the tanks are a very tanky ranged job to come back in and finish not come back, but to finish soaking these before everybody clumps back up. I'll show the intermission ad when it's our time to go back there. I would also note here that I would not use your cooldowns on this Cycle Warden. I think it is a waste of damage. So just use your standard stuff. If you feel like sending your Odin's Fury on this guy, totally fine. We just want to send that all the time, right? But your Avatar and Spear, you really, really, really want to send this on the boss. You do not need to send cooldowns on this guy to kill him. And if you save your cooldowns for coming back to hit the boss, your cooldowns will be up for the ad, so you don't have to worry about that. Everything's going to time out just fine. But as far as tips on how to survive this fight efficiently, Spell Reflect is your best friend. You obviously don't want to be hit by the beams because they do damage and stun you, but more importantly, Fury Warrior is actually one of the few classes that can use its defensive while you're stunned. So because of that, Enraged Regeneration should definitely be saved in most situations, because instead of like trying to tank something, we can tank something with Spell Reflect. We can actually save our Enraged Regeneration in case we mess up. We shouldn't mess up, but in case we do, we should use it there. So once again, beams are coming in, we're dodging left to right, we're soaking the orbs. I just kind of sit here and eat it because I have Spell Reflect up, and I'm just going to heal myself through it with Impending Victory, yada yada. But I just really enjoy this fight. It's a nice little dance. Some people may not like it. Our Demon Hunter hates this fight for very obvious Demon Hunter reasons. So once again, here is the danger. Here is the danger. Something I just need to point it out again because it is very important. If this gets soaked, it covers the entire red soak. So when you see people stepping off the red soak here, we as warriors can eat this AoE with the soak and keep in it, but it is it is incredibly dangerous to your whole raid. to have those greens go off. So your positioning is very, very key. Now, Warrior is, I've said before, a very, very tanky class. So we know an ad is over here, an ad is over here, and there's an ad in the back, but these lines don't go away. And as a warrior, we should be in the second ad set. Normally, I would not recommend you soaking the full bloom. What this ability does is if you stand in it, it's going to put a debuff on you that puts the flower garden effect below your feet and allow other people to walk through the lines without taking the debuff. So normally, each tank will eat it and then go to their separate sides, and you follow them through that, right? But because we're so tanky, it should be on us to eat the debuff or eat the damage here and then go back to the secondary ad here in the second intermission. One thing I did notice is it only spawns at your feet. So you're about to see me get the buff and just leap to the ad. I am doing it wrong. What I essentially did is I'm making my teammates eat more damage instead of just running back to the ad. It does give you a move speed bonus, so don't worry too much about that. But this is where I'll use my Enrage Regeneration to just eat this damage. And you'll notice even through Enrage Regeneration, that's a 30% damage wall, I went down to 50% health. So it does a lot of damage. So you see me leap here, and I'm not leaving the grass for my teammates. Now here is the ad. This is all it does. It does cleaves, it does these ground effect cleaves that you want to get out of, and you just DPS it down like a dummy. Don't get hit by the cleaves, DPS it down, kill it as quick as possible. This is all you have to do. This is your job, right? So make sure you're not getting hit by the cleaves and kill the ad. If you do not kill the ad, it does an entire raid wipe AoE to everybody and is a big pain. Well, I mean, obviously it's a pain because it's just a raid wipe if you don't kill the ad. So that is why we save our second, or that'd be our third spear set at the 3-minute mark. You see it's a little later into the fight. Like it's more towards the 310, 315, 320 mark when we're actually going to be using our cooldowns back there. So keep that in mind. Don't use your spear set when it's up for boss damage. Use it on the ad because it needs to die. It is very important that that ad dies. So once again, all the ads die. We come back. We hit the boss. And this is the fight itself is very simple, but there's a lot of damage going out, and there's a lot that can go wrong very quickly. One thing you do not see me get here, which I will point out when it's shown, is another one of the boss's mechanics called the Weaver's Burden. What the Weaver's Burden does is when you get it, it drops a zone that expands, and if people walk into it, it bounces them back and makes them take damage. So what you want to do is alongside the wall here of where the boss is, you want to walk over and drop the burden there, but it actually does a good amount of damage to us. So because it actually damages us quite a bit, that's another situation where you want to use Health Stone, Health Pot, Spell Reflect, that kind of thing. And I almost die here because I just sat there and ate it. I Spell Reflected, I sat there and ate it, Health Potted through it. I probably shouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend you do that either. But I know my limits in terms of how much damage I can take, so I just sat there and ate it. Here! This is the danger that I was talking about before. This is the big, big danger. When you're dodging beams back and forth, you have 2 soaks on either side. And if you position poorly, like we are here, like we did soak a bit of it, like I'm standing in it a little too long, you come up in this situation where now you have all 3 soaks, or potentially all 3 soaks going off. And it'll just kill people. Like your teammates will die. You saw all of my other melee run away. But our teammates will die. We had to be very careful here. Our tank died on this intermission. So because of that, we didn't have a safe way to cross all of these lines. It took him a while to get here. We already have a couple people dying. He is in rough shape, but this fight, you saw it looked really good. Everything going fine. Everything going chill. can go bad in an instant, just because of how much damage is going out. But once again, we're doing our job. We're killing the ad. We're doing as much damage as possible. To note, this debuff that you have here, this is the debuff that you get by going into the circle to fight this ad in the back. So if you ever, like, let's say someone dies and you think you can go back there again to try and help kill that ad, if let's say one of your group 3 people die to trying to fight the ad, you're not gonna. You can do a damage for a little bit, like a Hail Mary kind of thing, but it's going to tick you down, and you're just going to die within a couple seconds, just because of how much damage it does. But right here, it's getting rough. We have a lot of damage going out. Because these ads are taking so long to kill, because we have people dead on the floor, this stacking damage that the boss is doing on top of just the random AoE damage that's just going on in this encounter, we're just having people die and rot out because it is a very rough part of the encounter if people die. You can get behind really, really easily on this encounter. But it's just very important that you liberal use of health pot, health stone, you stay alive, you make sure you're making sure you're using your cooldowns on the second ad set, and you're just staying alive, soaking stuff in melee. It is a pretty easy job for us. It's a little more awkward for ranged. Here, let me go back a little bit so I can show the Weaver's Burden stuff. So you see this AoE over here in the corner? Well, someone placed it. I didn't pause in time. Yeah, so this AoE over here, this is the Weaver's Burden, and it's a physical blocker. So if you mess up and you place this, like over here, or even where this guy is going to spawn, no matter what you're doing, he's going to spawn here. Do not place it in this area. Keep it up against the wall, away from everybody else, or you could literally cause a wade wipe? You can literally cause a raid wipe by doing that. The boss also, in its intermission, cleanses these. So, put them in a good spot, get them away. After this continuum effect, the boss will cleanse the arena, and those go away. It's not something that's persistent through the entire fight, right? But otherwise, it is a pretty simple fight. There's just a lot going on. You're doing damage to the boss, you're soaking your stuff, you're dodging, you're trying not to get hit by explosions, you're trying to live as much as possible. One of the things I really don't like about the swirlies in this fight is how ambiguous they are. Generally, the way I like to think about how fights are designed is Blizzard will always give you a safe space, right? When this thing goes off, it's very ambiguous, but here is still safe. You're not going to get hit with the explosion here. I just don't like how ambiguous and how it fades to the outside. I would rather it be very static, so you can actually see where it's going to explode, because the visual clarity is kind of rough. But in this situation for us, we have quite a few people down, and it's actually at the point where the only thing that's going to wipe us before we kill this boss is the red soak. So you're about to see some of our ranged actually step up and come into this soak with us to make sure it gets soaked in time, because it's based on the amount of people in it, yada yada. Once again, just popping my rage regeneration and just eating the damage. This is not the only time you're just going to be able to pop enraged and eat damage. Smolderon has a good time to pop and eat damage, so. Otherwise, this fight's not too bad. It shouldn't take you too long to prog it, and overall, I really enjoy Nymue. I think the ability to keep 100% uptime while moving left and right, while dodging things, while soaking things, I like it. For a mid-level raid boss, this boss is really fun. I don't think it's as difficult as something like Rashok, for example, that kind of holds its same spot as that side pillar mid-level raid boss. But I really like this fight. And I hope you do too. But that's kind of all there is for me to just kind of ramble on about it. There's only 2 phases. You do them right, boss is dead. But thank you very much for watching. in the next video, we're going to have a lot to talk about with Smolderon, because there is some juice. There's some stuff we can do. Thank you very much. Peace.